Welcome to today's episode of Open Tabs, where we talk about the stories taking up space in our tabs. Hi, Megan. Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
Hey. Okay, so very busy as always. So we're going to jump straight into it. Um, First topic for today. This wrap. Nearly 80% of Gen Z goes to live sports for celebrities and brand activations, a new study finds. So USC Annenberg did a study. They find that most Gen Zs are only going to live sporting events for performances, celebrity sightings, etc. And another stat that was really interesting was 49% of Gen Z first got into sports in the first place through athlete, fan, or viral video content. And it's really interesting. I feel like sports is just as raw. Pipeline has significantly changed with Gen Z and social media. So I wanted to get your all's thoughts on this. And Megan, I know you've been digging into sports in the past year.
Oh, longer ever. I've been forced into it, not by my choice, but because post pandemic, and I feel like as people were coming back to live events, sports really recognized that they had a youth problem and really started investing in the spaces that youth are and what they're doing, and they really saw right away they had to pivot. And in my research into this, one of the things that is really unique to the sports fan today, like you said about how they get into the sport, is it's not as inherited, I feel like, as it used to be. It was very much like my dad was a fan of this, so I'm a fan of this. I feel like now the discovery is becoming more of a personalized thing that happens through your own channels, whether that's your friends or online. So I feel like that's like the big societal shift that's taking place here. Even like it might be cool to choose like the opposite of like your dad so that it's like there's something to root for or something like that. So I think that that's the big societal shift that's taking place. And then the rest is just like, Gen Z discovers everything differently than other people. And that it makes sense that they would say that they're going for the brand activation and the celebrities because to them, you could get the game itself and the information of what happened at the game as well as you at home, as well as you could if you were there. So it's like, what is the value of being in person? I feel like would be a better question and exploration to ask here. Like, what do they value about the in person experience of going to a game?
Yeah, I'm curious, does it talk at all about like Gen Z? Like it is to Megan's point, is it specific to Gen Z physically attending?
Yes.
Okay, so are they
Physically
still
attending live events.
watching and like consuming? Does it talk about
It
that at
talks
all?
about the consuming is mostly happening via social media. So like they're
They're still like
Down.
they're still participating
yeah,
in fandom.
yeah, they're
Just not.
participating in fandom. Yeah, this that stat specifically about live events. Interestingly, with fandom, and to your point, Megan, it's largely being driven by the athletes' personal stories, which is
Yes.
interesting. Not so much like, oh, I'm a Jets fan. It's like, no, I am this specific athlete's fan, and my fandom will follow him as he moves to different teams, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah, so 32% said they support individual athletes over specific teams, and 48% of them are calling themselves bandwagon fans. Um,
I also think this is another reflection of culture where it's like sports is all about narratives and basically football. My favorite fact about football is that like it wasn't popular until like the rise of TV and the figuring out of like if you add narratives of like rivalries and underdog stories, that is what actually gets people interested. They were just so team based. And so like this team versus this team. But as we've moved towards a more like individualistic, personal branded society, it makes sense that the draw of the narratives would also be tied to individuals versus like a whole team or a whole group. But we also see with our piece that we're moving back towards like the group dynamic of like social media and like wanting to see how a group is interacting together. So like I could see that being even more of a shift of like, and I think that's something we see especially in basketball, where it's like they want to see dream teams. They want to see like LeBron play with this person, and that not just because of the chemistry on the court, but also off the court being like an important thing, and like what that will look like. So yeah, this is surprisingly interesting for sports, I guess. Good pick,
Well,
Emma.
I think it's so it's funny. I feel like these like, I don't know, sub efforts around sport, like the like micro markets that are tied to like live sporting events has really evolved and has been sort of
Mhm.
interesting. So it's like if you think about like it feels like people in rooms of boardrooms who are strategizing are like, what can we do to make the in-person experience like enhanced, you know? And again, you guys know I always talk about Savannah Bananas, but like they just had this like big moment where they sold out Wrigley, which was like a something that they've been working toward, and like that's insane
That's a big
and
deal. Yeah.
really cool. And I think that having attended a Savannah Bananas game, like there's so those micro things that I was talking about are like so like it's like the things it's like while Major League Sports is looking here and they're focused to, as Megan said, like on the game itself, it's like Savannah Bananas are like, what about everything else? And so it
Totally.
is one all about the performance there. It is an experience to attend it that is not like being at home. Like it is a very different experience. And so it does feel like you are paying for an experience that you cannot have behind your phone. You cannot. I think two, clearly the amount of effort. It's like every player is a fan, has their own fandoms. And that is a huge component of that because literally it's almost like the polar opposite. Like if you're gonna do a case study, it's the polar opposite of caring about the teams. Like the teams are made up. Like they like, yes, Savannah
Yeah.
Bananas, like, the coconuts, like the firefighters. Like, yes, like I think maybe over time, the team dynamic and that like deep feeling that happens of being like a Steelers fan or like a Red Sox fan or like a Warriors fan, like that takes time, I think. And I think that the way, right now with the way social media is, the way things are so fragmented, um, it's like lean into the players. There's also that emotional connection. And then there's that whole other layer of you know, like there's that sports-ish angle of like, what are those narratives of like the team dynamic, the drama, the families, the friendships, like all the relationships, almost like the feminine gaze at sports. Um,
Love that. And
you
I
know,
feel like Netflix is doing the best job of that. We talked about that in our reality TV curve that we published, I think this month, last month, and how in the emergent space, it's very much about like sports and reality TV intermingling. And we see like Netflix is really doing a good job of deep diving into like the personality and the person and like the individuals, like their quarterback series, where each time it's like different quarterbacks and like I don't care about football, but I had to watch it for a project I was working on. And like, I was like, oh, I love Joe Burrow now. I see why everybody thinks he's so great. Like, this guy's hilarious.
yeah.
And so I feel like it does endear you more to the sport and the players when you get that personal backstory.
I love
All
that.
you need is like one little personal thing, and then you feel like invested, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the other day someone was like, oh, LeBron is going to go to the 76ers. And I'm like, oh, I care.
Okay, I know we have to move on, but we just had to talk about Braxton Berrios is playing on the New York Jets now. And the social media team had him they had the whole team do a video where they had a bunch of like girly items and they were like, can you say what these things are? And he knew all of them. And like everyone was like
Oh, that
trained by
was
Alex Earl. Yeah, and it was like that. I've never watched Braxton Berrios play football, but I watched that whole video and it was like in the comments. So like you're so right. The feminine gaze on sports, I think, is so important
how fun would it
the next
be
few
to
years.
this is the first time I feel like in my whole life, like I would love to help do strategy for a sports team. I think it would be so fun and creative, and like it has all of the fun elements right now. And like I feel like the doors and possibilities are open, especially with that. It's like that's a perfect example. It's like if Jets could do that, like what can't we do? You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, Emma, you're right.
So,
Next topic.
something to watch out for. Our second topic we're going to talk about right now, but it will be behind our paywall tomorrow. The Wall Street Journal released this really interesting article the other day. The latest darlings of social media marketing, regular people with 500 followers. And this is